Well, greetings and salutations, and welcome once again to the Newsman Weekly Podcast, episode number 59 for those keeping track of such things. I may be the only one, but that's what I do. Hey, in just a few minutes, we're going to talk about everybody's favorite topic, property taxes. We're going to be joined today by the local guru of property taxes, Richland County Auditor Pat Dropsey. During my less than stellar 4-decade journalism career, I can think of few things that generate more heated discussion than taxes. And it's never, in my opinion, been more heated than it is today. I'll ask Pat about that, so stay tuned for that discussion. Thanks to all of you again for joining us today after another busy weekend across Richland County in north central Ohio. Time for more relaxed coffee. I am joined today by Zac Hayden, the executive producer of the Newsman Weekly, and we also welcome the return of the prodigal son, Hayden Gray, the show's videographer, who returns after a well-earned 1-week suspension or vacation. We'll let you folks decide. Gentlemen, how the hell was your weekend?
What's up, Carl? How's it going?
Morning.
That's great, guys. Thanks for jumping in with just meaningful conversation. You know, I can count on you guys.
Yeah, it's good to be back. I was in New York City for the weekend, and I come back a little bit banged up. I think I have a calf strain from walking so much. And I was thinking on my way over to walk downtown to get coffee this morning, like, this is how KD tore his Achilles. This is how Tyrese Halliburton tore his Achilles. Tatum, those calf strains. So I was just thinking, like, I hope I don't.
Extra cautious.
Yeah.
Wait, you dared to take a ouchie calf muscle?
I did.
Anywhere near Main Street in Mansfield, Ohio?
Yep.
Don't you realize you could fall over at any moment?
I could. I was
with
very,
all the construction?
I know. And that even, the construction even made it more dangerous for me. But here we are.
What a hero.
So let me get, 3 weekends you've been in incarceration, a weekend off, and then New York City.
Yeah, something like that.
Man, you ain't worth it.
It's been a summer.
You ain't worth a tinker's damn to me.
I work a little bit.
That's an old expression. So what'd you do in New York? Anything fun or just hanging out?
I mean, no. We didn't do any tourist stuff. It was just a friend's birthday party. So we kind of, walked around a lot and ate some food and drank a little bit. And
that'll lead to ouchie calf muscles.
Our hotel was on 37th and 8th.
I have no idea where that is.
Not a good place up here.
It's kind of
close. What borough?
Manhattan.
Oh, okay,
it's close to Times Square.
All right.
And it's kind of crackhead alley. I saw a guy smoking a crack pipe at like 10 a.m.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, if you start early, it lends itself to more.
That anything's possible. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, Hayden, what the hell? You were gone all last week for the most part. What's going on with you?
Well, I mean, I'm happy to be back from my suspension that you'd like to call it.
Yes. Very
heard
much
you were
so.
gambling on the show.
Yeah. Just like the MLB scandals, I guess.
Yeah,
you can't bet on how long Carl's intro will be. The over/under.
The over/under on how many gerunds
Yeah.
are used in the show. How many malapropisms I might toss out during the course of the show.
Yeah, but I do feel bad for the new director of the NECIC, who I feel like you guys made me believe that thinks that I may have actually lost my job. So if he's listening to today's episode, I haven't lost my job.
Yet. I think that's important to point out. It's yet.
But no, the week I was gone was down in hot, humid Savannah, Georgia with family. 3 kids under 4 in one house. I think I need like a medal or a trophy because we made it through it. We survived, but
so once again, you went all the way to Savannah, Georgia, and simply refused to visit my boyhood home in Brunswick, which is an hour south.
I did assure you I will make that happen one trip.
Yeah.
I will weather.
Is there a sign out front that says Carl Hunnell's boyhood home?
It probably should be. There probably should be.
We will make one.
It should say like former home of Naval Air Station Glencoe,
Yes.
and underneath boyhood home of Carl Hunnell.
Yeah, we're going to make that happen for you someday, probably long after you're gone. But
Yeah, I think it'd be nice. Well,
we'll make it happen.
That may not be all that long, to be honest with you. Well, you know what? I didn't sit home all weekend. I went to the Ohio State Fair on Saturday night with friends to see a country music legend, Trace Adkins.
Probably a great night for it. It was beautiful.
Did you do a photo gallery or something?
I did not. I do love when they tell you 15 times before the show starts, there is to be no audio or visual recording
no
during
flash
the performance.
photography.
And as soon as the show starts, 500 people are holding up iPads, cell phones, everybody's shooting video. And I'm like, can't anybody listen?
And no one's gonna watch your concert footage.
No, but everybody's sitting there posting it on all the grams and the TikToks and the face snaps, and I'm like, can't y'all just sit and enjoy the damn show?
No.
I mean, I'm a big Trace Adkins fan, so I'm not a fan of big crowds, traffic, etc. And let me tell you, getting into the state fairgrounds on Saturday late in the afternoon, I'd rather put an ice pick into my right ear and push it through to the left.
I've never gone down, so I'm sure it is a
it's a nightmare. But you know what? Trace Adkins, great show, great time. And inside the Celeste Center, seats about 10,000. Wasn't a sellout, but God bless him. He's a good show.
When was the Ohio State Fair? Is that done, or does that go another weekend?
I don't know if it goes another weekend. I don't know if it's still going on or not. But
there was the Richland County Fair this week. So
yeah, I was out at the Richland County
Fair
for opening day yesterday. I went around. My favorite part of county fairs is walking through animal barns.
Me too.
100%. Check them out.
I love animals. I dislike most people. So just going through a barn, always got to stop in the swine barn first. I got to find a Wilbur and Charlotte and Charlotte's Web. You got to have all that.
That's so true. I like the animal barns too, and I don't trust the rides at fairs.
Oh no, I'm not getting on any roller coaster that came out of a suitcase.
Ferris wheel,
no, I'm not doing that. But also was at the Kingwood Center Gardens yesterday for Family Day. Posted photo galleries and short stories from both of those things. So we're going to be out at the county fair all week, or someone will be. I don't think I'm going to go back out again, but we'll be out there with lots of coverage from the Richland County Fair all week long. Hey, before we get too far along, folks, we know you got a lot of choices of places to go for news, information, entertainment, and mindless drivel. So we're grateful many of you come to us every week, even if it's just for that aforementioned mindless dribble. We couldn't do this show without your support, so please, if you haven't done it already, please subscribe to the show, give it a great rating. Many thanks to local country singer Luke Watson for writing and singing Smoke and Drink, which at this point, given what you guys have done all weekend, is this show's fitting theme song.
We're almost 60 episodes in.
Wow. Yeah, it's frightening. My thanks also to the great folks at Relax It's Just Coffee for sponsoring this show and being such a great partner to the Newsman Weekly. Every day just starts better with great coffee. Our friend Paul Kimmerling and his baristas at Relax simply have the best in town at 105 North Main Street in downtown Mansfield. And yes, you can get to downtown Mansfield on Main Street this morning. I'll just throw it out there.
Or use Walnut or Diamond.
Walnut or Diamond? I mean, there's lots of ways to get around. But I'm going to have this coffee for a second, so you guys talk amongst yourselves for a moment.
All right.
Come on, we finally got a chance.
Should we talk baseball? Should we talk Guardians? Okay.
Thanks, guys. Very good. Your contributions are appreciated. And
that segment was unsponsored. Relax didn't like.
Yeah, they didn't like that. Listen, Paul, don't listen to those guys. You stay with me. We'll be okay, buddy. Hey, before we get to Richland County Auditor Pat Dropsey, we do have some news for you today. Speaking of Main Street, we are more than 5 months into Mansfield's $19 million 20-month Main Street Corridor Improvement Project. Mayor Jody Perry and officials with Downtown Mansfield, Inc. had a public meeting last week to update downtown business owners and residents on the project. This is a complete upgrade of Main Street from 1st to 6th Streets, a project that also includes replacing century-old water mains along the entire corridor. The work began February 24th, and officials hoped the water main work would be done by the end of May, which has been about 3 months, but it took 5 months, largely due to a wet spring and underground utility lines, some of which were not on any known map.
Wow. How'd they get there? Or did they just... Yeah,
they're just not on a map. I mean,
mystery lines.
Keep in mind the stuff, once you dig down through the street, you're looking at stuff that's been there for decades. In case of the water main's been there 100 years. So when the guys are digging down in from Kokosing and you come across a gas line that you didn't expect because it's not on the map, who knew it was there?
You got to adjust.
Is it active? Is it actually being used? Is it, walled off? What do we do with it? So that slowed some things down. I did cover the meeting at DMI last week, and it's clear some of the business owners are not happy with the amount of time streets have been closed since the project began. Based upon the folks on Facebook who love to get on there, there's a lot of, I won't say a lot, but people on Facebook are not happy about it either for the most part.
Yeah, and in the time it takes you to come up with a ranty comment, you could have walked from the Martini's lot or Walnut Street into a Main Street business and got your drink or your food or your item of choice and left.
You know, we come downtown every single day. Last week I patronized the Coney Island Diner. I patronized Two Cousins Pizza. I obviously patronized Relax It's Just Coffee on a regular basis. It's not hard to get into these places.
It really isn't. It's still Mansfield. I was in New York City this weekend, and it's still an easy place to navigate.
Wait, are you trying to tell me that Mansfield, it's easier to get around even under construction than New York City?
Just slightly, but yes.
All right. Hey, then good news is water main replacements are done, so the remainder of the work should be more block to block with less full Main Street closures. The next phases involve storm sewer replacement, sidewalks, curbs, street lights. An official said the impact on traffic through the corridor won't be as great during that phase of the project. One of them said, quote, "It'll look less like a construction zone."
Are they going to open up Main Street from like northbound traffic coming in? Or is that going to be...
I think it's going to change. One thing we want people to do and encourage people to do, and let's put this into the show notes.
Okay.
There's a place you can create. Go on, put your cell phone number in, your email address, and you'll get text updates and emails telling you what the progress of it is. They have maps. You can take a look. The story I did last week has maps that show various upcoming phases and detours and things like that. So it's going to be evolving and changing. You just have to be ready for it. And again, as Zach Heiser just said, this is Mansfield, Ohio. It's not New York City. It's not that difficult to get around.
The last question. I was wondering, you covered that meeting, and it seemed like there were a couple of outspoken business owners.
Right.
What do you think? Do you think, obviously it's kind of just a tough situation for them, but also the city is doing something to improve it. Do you think if they could go back, talking about the city, would they do things differently? Like maybe the water main project as a separate thing, so it's not all closed for so long? Or do you think it's just hey, they did what they wanted to do? And
well, let's say all they were doing was water mains. It still would have taken 5 months.
Same thing. Yeah.
I mean, and one of the things people love to complain about in this town is water main breaks. Well, when you've got century-old water mains, they're going to break. So hopefully with these newly installed large, new water mains, we're not going to have those kind of breaks. You know, like I said, it would have taken 5 months. Probably the biggest thing I think the city could and should and probably will try to do a better job of going forward is communication. I mean, they had a public meeting about this back in April. And then we waited, May, June, July, 3 or 4 months before the next meeting. There probably don't rely exclusively on people signing up for text alerts and emails and things like that. They need to be more proactive, need to put word out more often. I did see over the weekend, Mayor Jody Perry had a very long Facebook post on her mayor Facebook page that talked more about the details of what's going on. I mean, there's got to be more communication with people about this. But, people also have to keep in mind the end goal. Go back and look at the pictures, the artist renderings, the videos that the city produced, what this is going to look like. This is once-in-a-lifetime type transformation.
Yeah, it's going to be really nice.
I feel bad. I feel horribly for businesses that have been impacted by this. I hope the city revises the grant program that they came up with so that businesses don't have to demonstrate that they've lost 25% of their business because of this. There's $50,000 out there that the city allotted in this grant program, up to $2,500 per business. Let's find a way to get that money out to these businesses. It's not going to make or break a business, a $2,500 grant, but anything helps.
Yeah, we got to keep them afloat at least.
it does no good to have a wonderfully vibrant new streetscape if you don't have businesses there for people to go visit. All right, enough about that. We did have 2 big criminal court cases in the news last week. Both involved defendants changing pleas from not guilty to guilty, Bryce Witchey and Stephanie Kellenberger. Both are now scheduled to be sentenced October 6th by Richland County Common Pleas Court Judge Brent Robinson after the completion of pre-sentence investigations. Witchey pleaded guilty Thursday to all 31 felony counts filed against him more than a year ago. Witchey is 29. He entered guilty pleas to 30 counts of illegal use of a minor or impaired person in nudity-oriented material or performance. Richland County Prosecutor Jody Schumacher confirmed to us Thursday evening. He also pleaded guilty to a single count of attempted importuning. That was actually the original charge that got him arrested. Mm-hmm. He was on the internet talking to a woman, and allegedly, I'll still say allegedly because he hasn't been found guilty yet, was trying to convince the woman to let him have sex with her 8-year-old daughter, hence attempted importuning. In that case, the prosecutor and defense have agreed to recommend a 12-year prison sentence for Witchey, but Judge Robinson is not bound by any agreement. I spoke with him Thursday evening. He'll make up his own mind on October 6th. Kellenberger pleaded guilty Friday to all 21 felony counts filed against her almost a year ago. She's a former teacher in the Shelby School District. So, Hayden, what do you know about that case?
Yeah, this is one that close to a similar timeline when we talk about, the formal indictment came almost a year ago for Kellenberger. She also, like you just said, changed her plea, pleaded guilty, and prosecution and defense during her change of plea hearing this past week on Friday ultimately came up with a 15-year agreed-upon sentence with the possibility for judicial release after 10 years. That's reliant on good behavior, no contact with the victim while in prison. I spoke with Assistant Prosecutor Brian Dove a little bit about this process because, again, it's a situation where Judge Robinson has the ultimate say. He is not bound to that. However, sometimes when prosecution and defense are having those conversations, the judge can participate. They don't have to participate. Prosecutor Dove did say that Judge Robinson did participate in this conversation, and his intention is to follow through with the agreed-upon sentence, as what Mr. Dove said, as long as there's no significant new information that comes to the case between now and October. Also, was reading up on this a little bit more, and there was also floated just a straight-up 12-year sentence with no possibility for early release. The prosecution obviously liked the idea of getting out after 10 years a little bit better, so October 6th will be a big day. Both of them will be sentenced within an hour of each other, pending things stay on schedule, and I believe that's the day before Kellenberger's 41st birthday. So,
well, very good. Listen, not a good way to segue from those kinds of cases, but local labor unions are continuing to protest at the site of a 144-megawatt solar-powered electric generating facility in northern Morrow County. I went down there last week to cover some of that, and it really is kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's Morrow County Road 31. Yeah. Put that into your GPS. I ended up using old-fashioned GPS. I stopped
like a Garmin?
I stopped at a convenience store in Iberia and asked
like
the woman.
A map,
I stopped in Iberia at a gas station and asked the woman behind the counter, "Hey, where's this solar thing at?" And she pointed. So that's how we used to find things in the old days.
I've been there. I've done that.
How far is this south into Morrow County?
I mean, it's southwest of Gallion. I don't know exactly.
Okay.
I just
kept not too far.
I kept driving.
It's all rural.
Yeah, it's very rural. It's rural Gallion, which Laborers Local 1216 and International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers 688, both based in Mansfield, said they helped gain state regulatory approval for the Blossom Solar project now being built by Sol Systems using a company called Q Cells for the actual construction. Union leaders told me last week they've been denied the chance to fill what they believe are going to be around 350 construction jobs at the $100 million project. Jeff Sellers, the business manager for Laborers Local 1216, said, quote, For the last 3 years, trade unions in this area have advocated earnestly for these jobs and for the opportunity for our members to be a part of this. Unfortunately, those hopes and dreams have been dismantled by Soul Systems and Q-Cells because we're not going to be able to be on it. It's very unfortunate the ones that helped bring this project to life are now the ones being left behind. A company spokesman told me Soul Systems is committed to hiring at least 70% of the project's workforce from within Ohio, and they plan to pay all workers prevailing wage in full compliance with state law. He also said that they've had ongoing discussions about electrical work with the unions, which would be news to IBEW business manager Brian McPeak, who said he got one email from the company asking for a list of contractors qualified to make the terminations and connections at the end of the project. McPeak said, quote, "This portion of the work requires a high degree of skill. I sent them a list of my contractors that do that kind of work. I send 10 emails a day with the list of contractors. That doesn't qualify as them coming to the table. They have over and over again implied that by asking me for a list of contractors they're working with us. That's not the case." I talked to Jeff Sellers. We hope to have him and McPeak on the podcast soon.
Oh, good.
We'll continue to try to follow that story. But you know what? That's enough for now. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Richland County Auditor Pat Dropsey to talk about all things property tax. Please stay with us. Well, welcome back to the Newsman Weekly Podcast. Joining us now is, as promised, is Richland County Auditor Pat Dropsey. Good morning, Pat. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for getting up so damn early. And an elected government official who actually got here before he was even scheduled to be here. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks for inviting me, Carl.
All right. Now, Pat, in my journalism career, which, as many people know, is less than storied, few things have generated more public anger and angst over those years than property taxes. Whether it's local tax issues on the ballot or taxes going up due to rising property values, it seems like few things get people more worked up than the government charging them more to simply own property. Before we even get started, I want to give you a chance. Please explain the county auditor's role. Your office calculates the tax rate. You don't set the tax rate, correct?
That's correct. The main factor involved in the county auditor's office when it is involving property is that we're the record keeper. We maintain all the information pertaining to every single parcel in Richland County, and there's over 75,000 parcels in Richland County. And they're divided between residential and commercial property. And then in each category, you have different types of residential. You either have just your normal homes or you have your agriculture. And then on the commercial side, you have mineral, you have just normal commercial property, and then you have public utility commercial property. And you're right. I've never seen anything like it when it comes to the angst of the public in regards to, let's say, the last 5.5 years. What everybody needs to remember is back in the, I believe it was in the 80s, the Ohio Supreme Court ruled that an arm's length transaction is the best indicator of value. So what the Department of Taxation does, and they are the ones who control the rules that every single county has to follow when it comes to evaluating property, is they take that verbatim. So they take the opportunity to ensure that values will increase in accordance with the sales or in accordance with the way the market is running at this time. And I'd like to make sure everybody understands that. If you remember back in around 2010, 2011, we had a crisis with real estate.
Right.
Well, values went down. In fact, during the 2013 triennial update, values in Richland County actually went down based on the lack of sales in the county at that time. So it kind of works both ways, but you only feel it when it works with properties rising.
Now, when those property values went down in 2013, did taxes go down?
Inside millage went down. Inside millage is always going to be adjusted based on value. And that's because If you got some time,
we're going to talk about inside millage in greater detail.
So yeah, that part of it's affected either way. It either goes up or it goes down. When it comes to the voted levies, there's House Bill 920, which was voted back in 1976 by the legislature, and I call that the anti-inflation tax bill, because what happens is if you vote for a levy, say you vote for a 1 mil levy, and that 1 mil levy generates $1 million. Every time you renew that levy, and it goes back on the books, that levy is only allowed to acquire $1 million. So what the Department of Taxation does is they will reduce the voted millage down as values go up to ensure that only $1 million is collected. But the reverse, which would happen back in 13, is that they will increase the millage if values drop, just so you can still collect the $1 million. Now, we do have levies that are in that situation in our county that have been on the books for 20, 25, even 30 years. So you have that part of House Bill 920 that has kept down that part of the rising values of property.
You mentioned that Supreme Court ruling, the arm's length transaction.
Right.
So just to make sure people understand that, if you live in a neighborhood and your neighbors, 5 or 6 of them, sell their houses for markedly more than maybe than it had been
stupid
purchased
money?
before. Yes,
that's what we call it. We call it stupid money. Yeah.
So when 5 or 6 people in my neighborhood sell their house for stupid money, suddenly the value of my property is going to go up, because the Supreme Court said if your neighbors are selling at this rate or at this valuation or this price, then what your property is obviously worth more also.
It's not the Supreme Court that says that. What the Supreme Court has said is an arm's length transaction is the best indicator of value of a particular property.
And the Ohio Department of Taxation said, "Oh, we like that."
Their rules have basically they use that to look at the overall neighborhood as far as the value goes. As property goes up, everybody's property goes up. Let's be honest, okay? If you see that properties are selling high, and you own property and you've owned that property for a while, you're kind of happy about that, because if you decide you want to sell, you're going to reap the benefits of that market. But the reverse is also true. And if you want to go buy, you are going to see the change in that market when it comes to the values of property.
And 3 years later, when the next triennial review is done, suddenly your taxes are going to go up because your property is now worth more because your neighbors sold for stupid money.
Correct. I mean, it does have that effect.
All right. Pat, I know you've worked in the auditor's office for more than 30 years. I think you're in your 6th elected term.
I think you might be right.
I think I try. I try sometimes. Yeah. But and we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I think you would agree this is the most worked up about property taxes that folks have been during your tenure. What is driving that anger, that angst, in your opinion? Is it simply people are having to pay more, or because more and more entities are putting taxes on the ballot, or some combination thereof?
Listen, let's understand something. No one likes to pay taxes, okay? No one does. Taxes serve a purpose. People agree with those purposes. People disagree with those purposes. Remember, when you vote for a levy, all that levy has to have is one more yes vote than a no vote. So regardless of the type of levies that are being voted on, you have a group of people who are against that levy. You have another group of people who are for that levy. And when money comes out of people's pockets that they're not looking to spend, they're not going to be happy about it. And that's probably, to me, that's the most, the biggest factor, is people are concerned about their money. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody's concerned about their own money. Now, the types of levies, whether people agree with them or disagree with them, that's going to have some concern. But it's going to be a combination of factors. But the bottom line is, no one likes to pay taxes. Taxes serve a a very difficult purpose for governmental entities within, not just in the county, but within the state. And it's just not the most comfortable thing that you can deal with.
Well, it got to the point earlier this year when I believe the state legislature was actually considering such a drastic step as doing away, and we'll talk about inside millage, but doing away with inside millage or creating, I mean, this is the most aggressive I've seen in Columbus in terms of trying to take the pressure off of people with property taxes. And is part of that because there's actually this petition out there circulating around where people are actually trying to get rid of property taxes altogether?
Well, I'm sure that has something to do with it. It's kind of difficult to understand the mentality of people that you don't know and you don't understand for sure why they're doing what they're doing. I mean, the people that are behind the petition, I'm sure they feel the way most people in the state feel. You know, they don't like to pay taxes. The problem with the petition right now is it has no solution.
Right.
You know, okay, I understand. You know, people don't want to pay property taxes. It's becoming a novelty. You know, you're going to have politicians running for state office that they're going to start talking about whether or not we should have property taxes, and that's a great discussion to have. But you got to have a solution for it, because you do have to have police protection. You need to have a fire protection. You need EMS protection. There are a variety of things just with townships and villages and cities, not talking about schools. That's a whole nother discussion, and that's a very heated type of discussion. Probably schools right now are generating more heated discussions with their levies than any other entity, because let's face it, they're anywhere from 65 to 70% of your tax bill.
Yeah. Does every state have property taxes, or I know there's some that they don't do income tax, but
there's states that have no income tax, but I do not know of a state that does not have
I wondered
some
if
type
there
of
was
property.
a solution out there that somebody's doing that. I mean, it seems like it always balances out. Oh, you don't have income tax, but then, you know, whatever else is higher so the state can earn revenue.
Right. Well, you have to look at it from the perspective of what would you replace it with?
Yeah.
Or what do they have to replace it? In the state of Ohio, you know, I mean, you have sales tax. You have a lot of exemptions to the sales tax. Well, the state of Florida has sales tax too. But their sales tax is significantly a larger driver of revenue for the state government than Ohio sales tax is. I'm sure there's a variety of different reasons why. I'm not a talking head. I'm not somebody who spends their life trying to analyze that to determine what's the best for a particular area. So that taxes are hard to discuss because a lot of people are emotional about taxes, and they need to set their emotions aside and look at it from a realistic point of view of what do you want for your quality of life. And it's a hard discussion to have. It's even a hard thought process to have internally.
Well, I think we had a revolution one time based on taxes. So
yeah, but that was taxes without representation.
Yeah. I don't know if a lot of people feel represented today either.
Well, but stand by for news, though, because one of the leading gubernatorial candidates, Vivek Ramaswamy, has said one of the things he wants to do is do away with income tax. Mm-hmm. So if we do away with property tax and we do away with income tax,
all right,
go ahead and shut her down, because everything's pretty much gone at that point. I don't know how we fund anything, but now you sent me a letter last week that was written by the County Auditors Association of Ohio, and that's part of the reason I thought this would be a great time to have you on the show. I don't recall that particular organization proactively sending out this type of very strong policy letter. What's driving that decision, and what does the association recommend for property tax reform in Ohio that's reasonable?
Well, they do have policy directives, but they're more along the lines of when they testify before the House legislature, whether it's the Senate side or the House side, or potential legislation that would affect the county auditor's office. They don't always send out any press release like they did this time, but they're well aware of, as all county auditors are, of the situation with property taxes in the state of Ohio. we have been speaking to our legislators on numerous occasions, either privately or publicly, about the need to come up with some solutions for the current situation. But as much as people might not want to understand it, as the rules are today, as long as people are going to spend stupid money on property, and we've had property in the last 24 to 36 months in our county alone, who has sold their property has sold for 2, 3, even close to 350% higher than what the value that we had on it. Wow. Okay, and that's why I call it stupid money. Now, I can't control what people want to do. No one can do that. But if someone's willing to pay the money, it's going to have an effect on everybody's property down the road. And that's because of the system that's in place right now.
Is part of that because there's a so-called housing shortage, or is this simply because people are willing to pay more to get the house or the property or the business that they want?
Well, the latter, more I can say the latter is more than the former. I don't know a lot about the former part of it. I've read where there's certain people who are in economics and they're talking about housing shortages, what they entail. It really doesn't affect our office, and so I don't put as much time into that. But one of the things people just need to keep in mind is that you control your own destiny. Now, whether you agree with the program that the state has in place right now through the Department of Taxation as far as how property is valued, whether you agree or disagree, you still need to participate, not just at the ballot box, but you need to participate with your legislators, and you need to let them know how you feel. That's the beauty of America, is that you have that ability to do that, and you should not abdicate it.
Now, one of the things that I'm often asked, and I don't often know the answer. In fact, I seldom know the answer. There's a lot of terminology that people might not understand when it comes to property taxes. I know when there is a levy on the ballot, it's usually one of property tax levy. It's usually one of three things. It's a new levy, it's a renewal, or it's something, and this is the one I think people don't understand, it's a replacement. Obviously, I think people understand a new levy and they understand a renewal because it's the same thing, you're still paying. But talk about when a taxing entity puts a replacement levy on the ballot, what does that mean? Okay, so a replacement is a statutory animal that was created because of House Bill 920. I'm not sure which type of entity in the state was the driving force behind to get that legislation, and it happened so many years ago. But what a replacement is, basically it's a new levy. But let's go back to the state budget of 2013. At that time, Governor Kasich was our governor. He had ran against the former Governor Strickland, and one of his policies or one of his political campaign views was that the state was in an $8 billion deficit. Okay, so and that the state spent all their rainy day money out of the rainy day fund, which they did. The deficit part of it was on paper, and the best way I can explain that is in July the county does their budget. That's a statutory requirement. They have to pass a budget by the 15th of July, have to file it in the county auditor's office by the 20th of July, and they have to pass it prior to the 15th of July with 10 days notice to the public so they can review it if they want. Do you have a lot of people beating down your door to review the mid-July county budget?
I don't, and even though it's filed in my office. No, that doesn't happen. But it's a statutory requirement. Right. So I always call it the wish list, and that's where all the departments put in what they would like to have, and then the county auditor's office, on behalf of the Budget Commission, we certify what we believe the amount of money that's going to come into the general fund. 9 times out of 10, my certification is lower than what everybody wants. So you have a paper deficit. Basically, that's what was going on, because people need to remember the Constitution of the state of Ohio does not allow for a budget to be passed by the House legislature in a deficit mode. It has to be balanced, and that's a constitutional requirement. So, excuse me. So what was going on there is that, and I'm trying to come up with a way that I don't confuse people.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm writing a story, I have that in my mind, and then I just get confused myself, especially when it comes to replacement levies.
So if you remember when we were talking earlier, I said that in the county we have some levies that are 20 years old, 25 years old, even 30 years old, and they're only generating the amount of money currently that they did back when it first went on.
Sure.
So what the legislature did is they allowed entities, and it's any entity that can put a levy on the ballot. Doesn't matter if you're schools, townships, villages, cities, or the county. And they call it a replacement levy. Well, what a replacement levy is, it gives you a new base. When people voted for the levies 20, 25, 30 years ago, it creates a base. That value of your entity at that time is your base. And that's what drives the amount of money you got that first year. So if that base goes up, the the Department of Taxation reduces the millage actually charged. So we might have 1 mil levy, as my example pointed out earlier, and now that levy is being charged to the taxpayers at 4/10 instead of 1 mil, because 4/10 with the values that exist now will generate that $1 million, as I used as an example earlier. And that's all because of House Bill 920. So what a replacement levy does is it creates a new base. So you can vote, you could put on a replacement levy at 1 mil for the same entity that had a 1 mil levy 30 years ago that generated $1 million. And that levy could generate 2.1. Okay?
Gotcha.
But what happened with the 2013 budget is that any new levies from 2013 on, there was a specific date if it went on, and I want to say it was maybe in May, but I don't actually remember exactly what that date was. If it's a new levy, there's no 10% tax break for residential owners. There's no 2.5% tax break for residential owners. So if any new levy that was put on after a specific date in 2013, the residents lost a 12.5% tax break. And so that's the difference between a replacement levy and a renewal levy. If it's a renewal levy, that tax break still stays in place, but the entity does not get that bump in value as a base.
Right. Now, one of the things I often hear people ask about is, what in the hell is a mill? I think people see this, they see a school district putting a 4 mil levy on the ballot, and they think a mill means $1 million. What exactly is a mill, Pat?
Okay, a mill represents $1 for every $1,000 of assessed value on your property. So the easiest way to calculate it for yourself is you look on our records, you determine, and our records will tell you the difference between the market value of your property and the assessed value of your property. Or some people like to call the assessed value the taxable value. And you take the taxable value, you divide it by 1,000, you multiply it by $1, and then that's what that levy will cost you. But we've made it simpler for people. So if you get on our website and you pull up a property, and you look after and see, like right now, the deadline to file with the Board of Elections for any levies for the November ballot, I believe, is the 8th of August. So starting on the 9th of August, the Board of Elections will send me all the levies that have been approved by the Secretary of State's office, and I have a spreadsheet. And I'll go in the spreadsheet and I'll add every levy for every single taxing district. So we have over 60-some taxing districts in Richland County. So that's a lot. It could be a large spreadsheet if the county's putting on, just the county alone puts on a levy. But what that does is we put in that information. There's questions we have to answer for the vendor who runs our website, which is Beacon, and they'll actually take all that information and they'll create a tab on every single property in Richland County. And if you look up on the right-hand side of the website, and you'll see a tab that says levies. Now that's not there right now. It won't be there probably till around the 15th of August. Right. And if you put in your property or anybody's property, and if your taxing district has a levy that's going to be on the November ballot, You hit that levy tab. It'll pull up each and every levy that you're going to vote on for your property, and it'll tell you the current, if there's a levy right now, if the levy exists, and it'll show you what the new amount will be if the levy passes. Now, sometimes you'll see a 0 because there is none, and it's a new levy. But if you pay attention to when it's a replacement levy, you'll see the current amount that you're paying, and then you'll see what the new amount would be for a replacement levy.
Because you lost those previous exemptions.
Correct.
All that
if it passes.
If it passes, right.
As the way the law currently stands, yeah.
And there's nobody who dislikes a good spreadsheet more than me. I'm just going to throw that out there. I don't.
Now you give me some ammunition to confuse you even more.
Well, when it comes to spreadsheets, I look at them, my eyes glaze over, they roll back in my head, and I just go get beer.
They're not in AP style.
Yeah.
No.
The results of the spreadsheet, though, and it's not just a shameless plug for Pat, but I have looked at that exact tool he described before. I never knew it was out there before I worked here, and our coworker Katie had told me about it, and it is beautiful. It makes it very much easy to see, and I think it helps because it's much easier to complain without educating yourself. Look at that.
I like the old days when you had to go up to the courthouse and go in the auditor's office and everything was on paper and you had to stand at the counter and somebody had to look it up
live in that world,
on old
Carl.
musty volumes. It's kind of like going to the old clerk of court's office back in the day. And
I did that on Friday.
Big old books.
Oh, big old books. I mean, that's how things are.
We still have those books. They're just smaller now.
Yeah. I think things were so much better then.
That's a pet peeve of mine. Okay, with all the electronics we have and all the as you were growing older or as you were growing up, and they start talking about computers and how computers can make us more efficient. Sure, they make us more efficient. All right, there's not a problem with that, but we still have to do the books.
Yeah.
Because the legislature's never taken that out of the law.
Yeah, the Constitution didn't update on the way you have to.
Didn't hit refresh.
No.
Yeah. The state legislature hasn't hit refresh in my lifetime, so that's the important thing. All right, we talked about this earlier, but what is inside millage? How does it differ from other kinds of property taxes? And is that something the County Auditors Association of Ohio would really like to see change? Because it has caused great angst out there.
Well, the easiest way to explain inside millage is you have two different types of levies. You have your inside millage, which is unvoted. It's guaranteed by the laws of the state of Ohio. And it cannot exceed 10 mills in total for any particular taxing district. So most schools are anywhere from 4.4 to 5.4, 5.6. The county is 2.00. You have some townships that are 0.2. You have some townships that are almost 2. You have cities or like Mansfield's 3.47. It's unvoted millage, and because it's unvoted millage, it was not addressed by House Bill 920. So no matter what happens over a lifetime that is existing, as values go up, the millage that millage will generate more money.
Gotcha.
Okay, all voted levies outside of emergencies for schools and debt service are affected by House Bill 920. Now, debt for schools or debt period, and then emergencies for schools, they provide one of two things. If it's an emergency, the school in the resolution that they pass to have it put on the ballot will indicate a specific amount of money to be collected. If it's a debt service levy, then they will receive an amortization schedule from their bond counsel. We have the file in our office from the resolution that indicates what the amount has to be collected if it's an emergency, and we have the amortization schedule in our office if it's a debt levy. So our office calculates the millage to be put on the duplicate, is what it's called, for just those two types of levies, and that's based on either the amount that the voters approved if it's emergency, or the amount that needs to be collected to pay the debt service for a particular year, based on the amortization schedule. Everything else is affected by House Bill 920.
Now, when a taxing entity, whether it's a township government, whether it's a school board, when they want to put a levy on the ballot, just make sure I understand how this works. They have a dollar amount in mind. We need to raise $2 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we're going to do it through a property tax. What is your office's role in figuring out, okay, you want to raise $2 million, they come to you and you determine the millage that's going to raise that $2 million? How does that part work?
Well, there's two different parts of that process. The first part of the process is basically we'll get a call and they'll say, hey, look, we're considering to put on a levy. This is what we want to generate. Can you give us an idea of what the millage should be? And basically, it's nothing more than a simple calculation. We know every entity's value. In fact, we have it broken down not just with Richland County, because we have entities that cross over. Like, for an example, Lexington School District. Some of it's in Morrow.
Right.
Clearfork. Some of it is, in another county. So we have to keep that in mind too. But the biggest factor that we use when it comes to that situation is we know the total. So we take the total and we divide it by the amount of money that they want to, or we divide it into the amount of money they want to collect is the numerator, the value is the denominator, and then we can determine what the millage should be or could be, and then we just let them know this is what you have to look at, and you have to always remember our calculations are prior to any statutory reductions, but also prior to any delinquencies that might accumulate.
Now you said numerator and denominator. This sounds like math.
It is math.
I was never. That's part of the reason I'm bad at spreadsheets, because I was really bad at math.
So that's the first part of the process to get them started. So then an entity is required to pass two different resolutions. The first resolution is to request a county auditor certify their levy, and that's the statutory form. We have to use statutory forms that are created by the Department of Taxation. So we get that, gets sent to us. Within 5 to 10 minutes, we'll calculate it, certify it, and then send it back. And then once they get that certification from the county auditor, then their board or whatever their taxing authority is for that entity will pass a second resolution requesting the Board of Election have it put on the ballot.
Very good. Now, I know there are a lot of property tax exemptions out there. Homestead, senior citizen, disability.
Those are not exemptions.
Oh,
those are tax credits.
Tax credits.
Because there are exemptions, but they're different.
Well, see, there I go again. And that's not even
I'd
math. That's just words.
I'd love to correct. Do you guys ever get a chance to correct?
Every once in a while.
Pat, you've been
I can't say yes.
Don't start.
You've been correcting me for 30 years, and most of that time was just at St. Pete's basketball games when I can't read your writing in the scorebook.
No, my writing was perfect. Don't even start.
But with all these tax credits,
yes.
Thank you for giving me the proper word, do people have to apply for those themselves, or are they somehow automatically calculated? How do these credits work?
Well, there's several credits. Only one is automatic, and that is the 10% rollback on all residential and agriculture properties. One of the, they call it the non-business credit. We call it the 10% rollback. So everything in real estate, class 1, which is residential agriculture, receives a 10% tax credit. Now, another tax credit it's called the 2.5% homestead / rollback. I do not know why it has that name, but it's a 2.5% tax credit. But it's an owner-occupied tax credit. So what that means is, say you own 5, 10 properties. You rent out 5 or however many. Only one of those properties you're living in, and only one of the property that you're living in is the property that actually gets that 2.5% tax credit. And that's the 12.5% tax credits I was talking about earlier, that if it's a brand new levy, will not exist.
Right.
Then you have your homestead. Now, the homestead credit is based on two different situations. You have your normal, regular homestead tax credit, but then you have the veterans tax credit, and the veterans tax credit is double what the regular tax credit is. You have to apply for it. There are certain things that you have to qualify for. There's a means testing. that you have to, in this year, you have to earn $40,000 or less. And that's based on line 3 of your Ohio income tax form. So it does not, it includes Social Security.
Okay.
But it doesn't, now I'm confused. I got that wrong. Anyways, it's number 3, item number 3.
Are you trying to tell me you haven't memorized and have in your head every single line of tax code?
No. But it's line 3 of your Ohio income tax form. And so that's one of the first things you can do when you're getting ready to apply is look and see where your what your income is at line 3. The other part of that is you have to be 65 or older or 100% disabled. Now, on the normal tax credit, the disability that is used is the Social Security disability. On the veterans tax credit, the 100% that's used is actually less than 100% because they're stricter in their percentage when it comes to disability, and it's through the Veterans Association or Veterans Administration. So if you qualify under those two, then what happens is you come into our office, you fill out the paperwork, then we get on a portal to the Department of Taxation. We put in a few bits of information pertaining to you, and taxation tells us yay or nay. If they say nay, they don't tell us why you were disapproved. If they tell us yay, then we take care of that. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit different. This tax credit is a little bit different than the other tax credits because what this one does, instead of having a straight percentage for the homestead, they take $28,000 and subtract that from your assessed value and then calculate your taxes on that. When it comes to the military or the veterans tax credit, it's double that. So usually you're looking at anywhere from, $375 to $500 a year of a tax credit on the just the regular homestead, and it's about double that for the veterans.
Now, when people turn 65, assuming they're paying property taxes, should they come visit the office or do something to apply for a senior citizen tax credit?
We always tell people, sure, get a hold of us. We'll ask you some questions. We'll concentrate on your on the amount of money that's on your line 3, because if you're over the $40,000 threshold for tax year 24, which is the current tax year, then there's no reason for you to come in, and we don't want you to waste your time to come in. So we would like people to call us, but you're always welcome to stop in and file. One of the things we're trying to advocate is that should be increased. Both factors should be increased. Another thing is there used to be no means testing until Governor Kasich came in office, and to help the state with their deficit at the time, they took away means testing and reduced the amount of people that were eligible for the homestead.
Thank you, Governor Kasich. I'd like to thank him for many things, but I'll stick with that one. All right, Pat, let's kind of head out the door with this one. You and I are the only people in this room and maybe in this building who remember the Durolf decision back in 1997 when the Ohio Supreme Court said funding public education based on local property taxes is inequitable. It's not fair. A student in Adams County, Ohio, is not going to get the same level of education as a student in Shaker Heights or Indian Hill, because it's based on local property taxes. So what happened is they ruled that, and ever since then, the legislature and the governor's office, as far as I'm concerned, I could be wrong on this, they basically have given the Supreme Court the finger and said, yeah, thanks for that ruling, we'll talk to you later. And they've done things like increase this and increase that. They created the Ohio School Facilities Commission, and they've done any number of things rather than address the core problem of local property taxes funding education. Now, the Madison Local School District has a unique tax on the November ballot, though it's one I think we may see more of in the future if anger continues to rise or germinate about property taxes. They're going to put an issue on the ballot, or there will be an issue on the ballot, that is saying, you know what, vote for this earned income tax levy, and we'll do away with this property tax levy. Earned income tax levies don't impact Social Security benefits and things like that. Residents who are older might not have to pay as much. I mean, are school districts going to have to continue, and not only school districts, but other taxing entities, are they going to have to look for more creative ways since the legislature has never really addressed the Dropsey decision from, good God, 30 years ago?
Well, I can't comment on the legislature's on their ability to deal with that decision, mainly because, look, I'm not a lawyer. I don't understand the legalese when it comes to that. Like, for an example, the terminology you used, I always thought it was just unconstitutional, the way they do it.
Yeah, it is.
Okay?
Yeah, right.
But, and I'm sure that part of the issue is that how you define different legal terms. And by no means am I smart enough to understand those legal terms. But what I can address is on the decision by Madison to put an income tax levy, which is the best way for me to explain it. It's just it's a 1% income tax levy, if I'm right. But here's the thing.
But it's earned income tax.
Well, it depends on the definitions, and I haven't read it, so I don't know.
Okay.
But let me use the city of Mansfield's income tax that they have. Theirs is based on the standards of the federal income tax to a certain degree. And then they have their own types of types of revenue that a person can earn that is not part of that calculation. So one of the things that people need to do is they need to ask questions if they're thinking about this, about voting for or voting against it, and find out exactly what type of income is not going to be on it, is the best way I would say. Because I don't know if Social Security is involved or not. Right. I know that there are some local income tax levies that do include Social Security. So the residents of Madison school districts need to ask that question. And my suggestion would be make sure you get something in writing that details what does and what does not constitute income for the purpose of that levy. And will it work? I know there's some schools that are in the state of Ohio that have income tax levies already. I'm not sure what they generate, and I'm not sure how stable that is because of fluctuations in jobs and fluctuations when it comes to what people can and cannot do, what they can afford, what they cannot afford, depending on the economy. So, yeah, I'm sure that there's going to be some type of a different way of viewing things. But for the most part, the legislature is still going to have to be involved.
Right.
Because for an example, the only reason Madison schools can put that on is because the legislature has authorized schools in the state of Ohio to put on an income tax levy. So even if people come up with creative ways to raise money to run their entities, they might not be allowed to do it unless the legislature gets involved and passes a law. The bottom line is you need everybody to work together to come up with solutions. The legislature is not going to do it on their own. And that's not a slam. That's just because you need to understand your community to understand what works in your community and what doesn't. Part of the Dropsey decision the way you described it, yeah, it's absolutely correct. What a levy does in one school district is not necessarily going to be the same as what it does what another school district does when it comes to levies. And it's just like anything in life. The legislatures, the beauty about them is that they're close to their constituents. They're close to their people. You see them in grocery stores. You see them at church. Okay? You can let them know how you feel. You can let them know what works, what doesn't. We got two great legislators. I mean, they understand our community a lot more than people will give them credit for. Okay, Marilyn and Mark, they're really good, and they pay attention, they ask questions, and they don't make snap decisions. But you need everybody involved. You need the people within the community to take the emotion out of it. You need people within the local government, and you need people within the state government. Everybody needs to work together to come up with solutions. Because if you don't have a solution, the ballot issue that's being proposed right now, it's only half of an issue.
Right.
Okay, you get rid of all the property taxes. You still need police protection. You still need fire protection. You still need your schools to run. You still need people at MRDD to take care of their constituents. You still need the children who are abused and neglected in our community to be taken care of through children's services. So, look, I think it's what people want to do when it comes to taxes. People need to throw their ideas out, but they also have to remember, just because you don't like paying taxes, you need to come up. You just don't sit there and say, "I want a constitutional amendment to get rid of real estate taxes." Okay, what are you going to do?
That's not my job. Somebody else can figure that out.
And that's the problem. And that's why you need everybody. That's why you need everybody to chime in. You can't take that attitude that, well, it's not my job.
Right.
Well, guess what? It's everybody's job, because we all live in the same community and we all need to work together to do what's best, especially for our children.
Well, good luck in today's world of social media and all that stuff. People actually all working together. That's kind of an interesting concept. All right, Pat, anything else going on at the auditor's office you want to tell people about that I don't have written down as a painful question?
No. Right now we're in the middle of the settlement, which is distributing all the real estate taxes that were collected during the second half. And then people that are due refunds for a variety of different reasons, those will be taken care of probably close to the end of August, beginning of September, after settlement. But I want to go back to something, if I have some time.
You do.
So when you brought up the word exempt,
yes,
okay, and I pointed out to you that
I was wrong.
No, that these are tax credits, but there are things called exempt property.
Okay.
So you have a variety of property that owners can file to the Department of Taxation requesting exemptions. People get on the Department of Taxation's website and look at the types of exemptions that exist. One of them I'll throw out is, if you remember the Boy Scout camp.
Right.
Okay, that property was exempt because they were not using that property to earn money. They were using it for the best way I can explain it, like a 501c3 type of situation.
Yeah. Camp Avery Hand.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm old.
Another example is hospitals. A lot of hospitals are exempt, but not totally, because you can't earn money. So if they, in some cases, and I know it happens locally, you have certain hospitals that will rent or lease certain offices. And in fact, one time, I don't know if it still is happening, the emergency room was run by doctors out of Canton, Akron area. Well, those portions of a property cannot be exempt. So you would have a partial exemption on hospitals. So there's still different types of they're not tax credits, but they're in this case they're called exemptions by the state of Ohio.
Just love the fact that every year things get more and more difficult to follow and convoluted. There was a time when Ohio's public records law was like a page and a half, and now it's like 35 pages. The public meetings law was a couple of pages. Now it's more than 20 or 30 pages long.
Thank the lawyers for that.
Yeah. Well, I think Shakespeare was right. The first thing he said is, we need to kill all the lawyers. But I don't mean that literally. I don't want to think of that. Just a comment by Shakespeare. But
so with the exemptions, are there any residential examples of that? You mentioned kind of like nonprofits or hospitals that don't earn money, sort of.
No.
But no.
No,
okay.
there's no exemptions for residential properties per se.
Yeah. Just be the credits, like senior citizen, disability. Okay.
Yeah, I turn 65 next year. I'll be racing in to fill out some paperwork.
Not if you're doing podcasts.
Well, yeah, that definitely the amount of money I get paid for this podcast. I'll definitely be qualifying for the senior exemption or senior tax credit. I don't want to say exemption.
Yeah, Carl.
As you so ably pointed out,
disapproved.
I was wrong, and I won't say that very often. So thank you, Pat. But. All right, folks, we are going to wrap up today's show on that note that Carl was wrong. Many thanks to Richland County Auditor Pat Dropsey for joining us today. We certainly appreciate it, Pat.
Hey, I just appreciate the opportunity, and I just want people to know that if you have questions, give us a call.
And we will put links to the Auditor's website in the show notes so people can click there and go look and see. And thanks again to everybody for listening to the Newsman Weekly. I'll be back in a second to put a bow on this week's episode. But until then, remember what author Mark Twain once said: if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything.